Now, since the First World War 100 years ago, the role of women in society has changed dramatically. Today, the number of working mothers in Britain is at a record high, with 2/3 in part or full-time work. Well, the report out this morning says that 65% of those with no children feel that they're expected to work longer hours than those who have kids. But the survey also says that mothers feel employers aren't doing enough to help them balance their responsibilities. So here's what you had to say.
I've been annoyed when people have had time off work because of their children, but alternatively you can understand.
I think it could lead to some resentment in the workplace.
If a child has been sick, I've been able to go home and look after them as long as I make the time up.
They leave early, and then the ones that are staying behind, they have to work long hours.
When you're actually not in the office, there's things that you can't do that other people have to do.
If they had to go for anything, then I wouldn't say, well, I'm not, you shouldn't be going because of this.
Well, with me this morning, Thea Green, a working mother of 3, and Tara Daynes, who feels that women without children are often expected to work longer hours. Good to see both of you.
Morning.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that you've kind of sometimes got to pick the slack up, in a sense?
Yes, absolutely. I think an awful lot of women feel that way. I can certainly understand where the results of this survey have come from. I think the problem is a lot of employers and people generally just assume that because we don't have children, we've got nothing better to do with our time than be at work. And they forget that we do have commitments and responsibilities and outside interests, and we're not all just out having lunch and shopping and getting our nails done. And also I think a lot of employers think, well, you've chosen not to have children, so you must be very career oriented and therefore happy to spend the extra time at work. And it is quite an unfair and often a very untrue assumption, I think, to make.
Yeah, it could cause, I can understand that causing tensions. Do you think that there are some mothers who don't give 100% when they come back to work, or do you think that happens?
It's not been my experience. I mean, I sort of, all the women that I employ that are mothers, I find them spectacularly productive. I mean, they're so used to multitasking. I found them to be unbelievably efficient, and they work, some of them working 3 and 4 days, getting done what somebody else would do in 5 days a week.
Right, so you think they prioritise more?
I think, no, I wouldn't, I'm not for or against either side.
Sure.
I think for me it's more, those women are very used to coming into work and being very efficient, working incredibly hard, and maybe don't spend time doing other things during their working day, versus others that maybe have a longer lunch time. I think it all ends up being quite equal.
Right. So but you can understand some of the results of this survey, that they're actually saying, hang on a minute, if you've got, because we're always, to be fair, we're always focusing on working mothers. We very rarely talk about women who don't have children who work, and we are usually focused on that. And we look at the problems that working mothers have, juggling and doing all of these things that you have to do. But then it's not fair if somebody else in the office who doesn't have children then has to kind of work almost twice as hard.
Yes, well, I'm a fan of not being so focused on just the clocking in and clocking out. So I think it's all just about, with or without children, it's about how productive you are. It should be your output rather than your input. And whether you're at your desk or not doesn't mean you're not necessarily working. Lots of people take their work home, work in the evenings, work on their days off, work on the way to school, on the school run. So I think, it's all about your output. And in a digital society now, you can get work done all over the place, not just at your desk.
No, that's for sure. But do you think there's resentment sometimes?
There is.
On both sides, actually.
There is, absolutely. I think that a lot of the time women just feel taken for granted if this assumption is made that actually they haven't got anything else to do. And you were talking about women have to juggle their life inside and outside of work when they've got children. Yeah. Well, that equality of opportunity and still being able to do other things works both ways.
Agreed.
And the work-life balance is just as important to me, who's got no kids and a cat, because there's so many other things that I also need to do with my time. So, we may well have elderly dependents that need looking after rather than children. But also, I've studied and done additional qualifications when I've been working, needed time to do that. I do voluntary activities as well. Why are all those things that I do outside of work deemed to be less important because it doesn't actually involve childcare activity? Yes, I wouldn't say that they're at all less important. I would say flexible working for everyone. In a digital environment today, lots of people benefit from having flexible working, and also in terms of different shift workers. We have a lot of people at Nails Inc. that are mums that work specific hours that are suitable for them, but then students come in and do the different hours. So I think it's flexible working for everyone, and like you say, some people have different commitments in terms of looking after elderly parents.
What's
and they need
very
the same flexible work.
We never have this conversation with working fathers, do we?
No,
and fathers that don't have, men that don't have children. Okay, thank you both very much indeed. It's good to see you.